Here's why you should talk less and the power of silence. I've always been a very introverted person, and when I would go out and I would see the most popular people, I would notice, oh, they talk so much. They always know what to say. They're always ping-ponging left and right, talking to all these different people. I need to be more like them. So there was a period of time where all I did was try to talk as much as possible. I thought that was going to make me very, very popular because I was talking more, but I was sadly mistaken. So here's how talking less will actually make you even more confident. When I joined the gym here, there was a person at the gym who would talk to everybody. Every time I would go to the gym, he would be there. He would be talking to people in the middle of their sets. He would be talking to people at the counter. He would be talking to everybody. And I thought, wow, this person's the life of the party. Wherever they go, they're talking all the time. And eventually, this person came to talk to me as well. And I thought, wow, amazing confidence. But then they kept doing it again and again and again and again. And when I would meet him in some of the socials at the gym, he would just not stop talking to the point where I thought, can you just shut up and allow me to think and allow me to be in peace? I realized that the more he talked, the less I valued him and what he had to say. And in a very real sense, if you use more words, they just lose value. But if you are more specific and careful with what you say, people value what you say a lot more. So if you keep talking all the time, people are not going to value what you say. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was just talking for the sake of talking, and people didn't really lend their ear to me because I was just wasting their time. So talking less will make people appreciate what you do say and value all of your words. You don't want people to associate you with being annoyed. The second thing I learned when I was practicing public speaking, I was going to Toastmasters Club, and they have something called table topics, which is where they ask you questions on the spot that you are not prepared for, and you have to speak in the moment. And every time I would go up on stage and I would get a question that I'm not prepared for, I would feel this urge of talking immediately, saying something now, coming up with material right now. And I noticed when I did that, I would be talking, I would say a lot of things, but I didn't really know where I was going. I would talk about this and then that and then this and that, and there was no coherence in what I was talking about. So I asked my coach, I said, I don't know what the problem is. I get a question, I start answering it, but then I lose my way. And then my coach said something so simple that just solved my problem. She said, it sounds like you speak before you think. Speak before I think? That's a thing? That's exactly what I was doing. Because before I even gave my brain some time to think of the answer, think of what to say, my mouth would just start talking, words would start coming out, and now I'm just talking for the sake of talking, and I don't even know where I'm going with it. This means a lot of words are coming out of my mouth, but making no real impact. So what she taught me to do was she said, just take 10 seconds before you answer the question to really think about which direction you're going in, what your answer is, and as you're talking, between sentences, take some time to think. Slow it down. This did a few things. A, it gave me the time to think, but it also, B, gave me time to relax. Because you feel all these endorphins, you feel all this adrenaline in your body, and you can't really think straight. So when you slow down your pace, you allow yourself to relax, you can think much clearly, and you can come up with better things to say instead of just talking at a very high volume. So think to yourself, how can I allow myself some time to think before I say the words? Because when I think and I speak, the words sound better, I have better choices in vocabulary, and overall I just have a lot more impact when I speak. Now this next thing I learned when I was working as a recruiter. My job was to interview people for certain positions at a company, and I would get to see what they do, what they say in interviews. And consistently I saw this pattern. When people seem the least confident, it's when they're not in control of themselves. They're too eager to speak, they're too eager to get the words out. So let's say I'm a public speaking coach and someone comes to me and says, I don't think you're a public speaking coach. I don't think you have the credentials. And this is my response. No, I have all the credentials. I'm very, very confident in my abilities. I've helped a lot of people in the past, and I can help more people as well. Can you see how I'm just talking because I'm nervous and I'm not in control of myself? I could be saying all the right things, but if I'm responding out of emotion, then you won't take me seriously. And I seem too eager to prove my point. But I could have said the same thing like this. You're not a good public speaking coach. You don't have the credentials. It's a shame you think that. I have 12 years of experience doing this. I've worked with some of the biggest CEOs in the world, and I'm very confident in my abilities. Just being in control, just not being eager to prove the other person and getting the words out just makes you sound a lot more confident. Now with this, you also want to consider your body language, because most of the time we lead with our body first. Our body reacts before the words come out. Why didn't you submit the project on time? Oh no, I was supposed to do this on time. I gave it. Can you tell before I even said something meaningful, just the way my body reacted, you already made a conclusion about my level of confidence in that situation. So it all comes down to control. How in control are you of your own movement? This shows you're not rattled. You're not easily thrown off. People who are confident can handle pressure. But when we feel the urge to speak, when we are so eager to get our words out, it shows we don't have control and we cannot handle ourselves under pressure. And if we can't handle ourselves under pressure, we don't have great leadership qualities. Robert Greene mentions in his book, 48 Laws of Power, law number 4, always say less than necessary. When you are trying to impress people with your words, the more you say, the more common you appear and the less in control. Powerful people impress and intimidate by saying less. The more you say, the more likely you are to say something foolish. You don't have to prove yourself by saying more, but instead say less to look more in control and more as a person of authority. Now, I also worked in sales, and one of the biggest lessons that I learned about sales was that it wasn't my responsibility to say more and more things to convince the other person. In fact, all the salespeople that are the best do this one thing. They listen more than they speak. They even track their statistics. How much am I speaking? How much is the prospect speaking? Because when other people speak, it gives you the ammunition you need to ask them smart questions. If you're just going through a list of things that you want to say, you're not really addressing what they want to hear. So when you're in a negotiation or when you're in a conversation, when you want to build trust, what you need to do is ask questions and get them to talk and really pay attention to your listening. I know this gets said a lot, but when you listen, truly listen, you can listen for specific words, specific topics, and then ask further questions on those. So you're not just going through the questions you want to ask, you're going through the questions, showing them you're paying attention to what they're saying and allowing them to fill the gaps. This will make you more knowledgeable in the conversation and give you the ability to better bridge a connection between you and the other person. Now, any good leader does this as well. They create a safe platform for other people to speak. If you are a leader in a meeting and you're the one talking all the time and you have this dominant presence, what tends to happen is no one else can compete with your energy. No one else can compete with your dominant aura, so they won't speak up because they don't feel safe to do it. So many people do this, and I try to do this too, where I need to be the most dominant person in the room. I need to talk the most. I need to look like the most alpha person here. But I realize that just shuts everyone down. No one wants to participate because they feel like you're better than them, or at least trying to be better than them. So instead, you can lead the conversation, but then allow space for others to fill it in. This gives you data to work off of, what questions to ask, how to facilitate that conversation. You look a lot more patient, you look a lot more empathetic, and you look a lot more confident. And the last reason that you should speak less is because it gives you much less pressure to deal with. I remember when I used to do my public speaking workshops, I thought, oh my God, I have to talk for 2 hours. I have to keep them engaged. So what I used to do for 2 hours, I would have back-to-back stories, tricks and tips and exercises. I just would not stop talking. And I felt so much pressure. Okay, keep going. You just have to keep talking to keep their attention. But here's what I discovered. The more you can get them to do something, the easier it is for you to speak and create an impact. This could be by you asking a question to which they can respond with a story. This could be demonstrating an exercise or an activity amongst the participants in a public speaking setting so you don't have to talk through it. You want to pick subjects that your conversation partner has an expertise in or something they want to talk about. If they want to talk about that thing, they will fill in the gap. They will talk more because they like talking about that subject. But if you're going to talk about the weather and what they do for a living. No one wants to talk about that most of the time. So then you won't get a lot of information out of people. One of the things I like to do is ask questions that start with a what or a how. What made you start your own marketing firm? How did you get into content creation? The answers to these are stories. And because they're telling a story about themselves, they will be a lot more passionate about it, they will fill in a lot more time, and you have less pressure to keep the conversation going. This is how when you speak less, you look more confident. Now watch my next video on how you can make small talk.